Thanks for being here. We've done a ton of these now. I think we're upwards of about 8 in the Valley, maybe, or 10 overall. We had done some work in Buena Vista and Salida, Colorado. Went over and talked to a couple businesses over there. But we've talked to Proas, we've talked to Romskis, Tassanog Farms, Oveja Negra, which is over in Salida. They're a bike packing company. Acclimate, Eddie Line, who's in Buena Vista. Pinto Barn over in Salida, which is Don't Go Nuts. They make bars that are allergen free over there, and they're doing other sustainable products. Castle Creek Guitars, Montana Rum, Treads and Threads, Western Colorado University joined us for that one, and Open Your Eyes Gallery was our last one. So we've had some really nice opportunities to hear the story about business here in the Gunnison Valley and maybe on the broader Western Slope, and so we're excited to hear this story here. I'll tell you a little bit about who is sponsoring this, so you know that. We'll do some prizes at the end too, so pay attention. But this is co-hosted by the Ice Lab, and Ice Lab, if you don't know, on campus. There's good things happening up there right now. We'll tell you about things coming up later this summer that you can check out. June 19th, I believe, is when they're going to be doing their next trout tank. They have one of the finest MCs in all of Colorado doing their trout tank MCing.
Who would that be?
I won't use names. And we're sponsored also by the Western Central Small Business Development Center. If you don't know what that is, they provide free resources to businesses that are in any phase of business. So free consulting help if you need those sort of help. Anybody in here a consultant? I don't think so. But yeah, they do really great things. So if you just need help with a phase of your business you're moving into, specialty help, some insight, it doesn't have to be from consultants here in the Valley. They have a statewide network of people they can access to answer really any question. And we're also sponsored by our 2 chambers of commerce. We have Ashley in the back from the Mount Crested Butte Chamber of Commerce, and Celeste Helminski. And obviously, if you can't see, we were having an argument about which chamber of commerce was the better chamber of commerce, and Ashley's got a black eye, so Celeste won. And whatever it takes to be number 1 here in the Valley. And we're also sponsored by Startup Colorado and also the Colorado Lending Source, which is a unique lending source that does microloans of $5,000 all the way up to loans of $5 million. So if you have a unique business idea and you're having a hard time getting conventional loans, that's the organization that can probably help you with that. And you can talk to either the Chamber folks or myself or the Ice Lab representatives. Unfortunately, they're not here tonight. David Assad and Darcy Perkins just took over 2 roles as director and assistant director for the Ice Lab. They're in the middle of their accelerator cohort. If the accelerator program is like a 12-week boot camp that they go through, and then they finish off with that trout tank that's happening on June 19th. They're just finished up a Catapult accelerator, which was it's called the Catapult Outdoor Accelerator, with some partners on the Front Range that had 3 businesses that will hopefully relocate here to the Gunnison Valley. Ooh. And they just gave their pitches in Boulder, Colorado, did a great job with their pitches. They had a really great person help them with their pitch presentation. I won't use names because I'm just so humble. But that's what's going on. And there's some, I'll tell you about events when we get into that later. But we're here today to hear about the story of business in the Gunnison Valley. And if you need to have fear struck into your heart, think about opening a small business here in the Gunnison Valley. Right? It's terrifying.
Fear.
I can give you some other things to be fearful of. You all have been complaining now for too many summers in a row that it's been too busy. You put that out into the universe, and the universe gave you snow in May. Be careful what you complain about. It took a whole season, but Uller heard your cries. Hopefully it quits, because I'm ready for summer to be here. Yeah, anybody else ready? Yeah. Please send it. Hi there.
Hi.
I know Terry, and I've known her for quite a while. Of course, her son Thomas here in the audience as well today. I know Terry mostly from my days being in the nonprofit world, where I'd walk in and say, Terry, we're doing a fundraiser, and I was hoping you would. And she gives me a form, and I fill out the form, and I get the alcohol. And then we cancel the fundraiser and just hang out in my garage. Don't tell Terry.
Sounds right.
Yeah. I should have invited you for those.
Sounds
you probably would have been okay with it. So, but I know her for her generosity here in the community, and you may know her, primarily from High Mountain Liquor. But she wanted to tell sort of a different story about how that even happened, because she is ready to celebrate on August 1st of this year, 25 years with High Mountain Liquor.
Thanks to people like you.
Yeah, thanks to people like me. Every time I leave the valley, the liquor store's sales take a noticeable dip.
Right.
But anyway, when we were talking, you said, that people know me for that, but you wanted to share a little bit of the story that preceded that maybe put you in a position to be the owner.
Oh, yeah, but even before that,
Go ahead.
I got a little story, because I'm a storyteller. All right, when I was, a young girl, I came up here on a trip to look at 40 acres in southern Colorado that I read about, for sale by owner. 40 acres in southern Colorado. I'm a beach girl, so I always wanted to move to the mountains. So it was like a shopper. That's what it was. And I looked in there and I bought this shopper. I came up here and bought the 40 acres because it was $195 down, and I had like $800 in the bank.
A ring and a prayer.
Yeah. And so I came up here and did that, and then I drove north and I went through Creed. I said, what's Creed? Went through Creed, I went through Lake City, I ended up in Gunnison. No rooms. There weren't very many hotel rooms or motel rooms. There weren't any chains. I went over Independence, Aspen. I drove through all these little southwestern Colorado towns. And then I went home and wrote all the Chamber of Commerces, because I knew eventually I would move here. So one of the first ones to answer me was the Gunnison Chamber of Commerce. And you sent the biggest packet of all. No, it wasn't you, but...
Pre-email, right?
Yeah, there was no email. This had a stamp on it, everything. I know it cost them a couple bucks to mail all of those brochures. But there was a lot of information in the packet. Now you can get it online. However, it took me a few more years of how am I going to get there. I can just afford $195. I don't know what I could do up here to make a living. Well, years later, I'm a paralegal. My husband was an attorney, and in the law office, someone walked in and said, have you ever heard of Lake City, Colorado? And I'm like, yes. And what do you need done there? And they're like, we have a closing. We're going to buy a little motel there. So I actually prodded my husband and we're going to go up there and handle this, So we did, and our client bought the motel. And then this is 2 years after I bought the 40 acres, and then I started walking around the town, and I saw another little for sale sign on a little duplex on Henson Creek that actually might be gone in the next week with the flood. But I didn't have any money, but I called him up and I looked at it and I just fell in love with this little place, and I'm like, oh, I want this. And so I asked the realtor to ask the owner if he would owner finance, because I knew I couldn't make a bank, I couldn't get a bank loan. I had already tried in Texas, and they're like, you're a girl and you're too young, so get on down the road. And so...
the good old days.
I know. So we called this guy, and he happened to be a banker, and he owned it for just a couple of years. It was brand new. And he said, sure, I'll owner finance it for exorbitant interest. But I'm like, okay. And I signing on the dotted line and bought this little condo for my vacation home, and I guess that would have been my second home at the time. And then 10% interest, and a recession came along. And I'm like, uh-oh, I'm going to lose it. But thankfully it wasn't a bank, and I would have lost it had it been a bank, honestly. Are there any bankers in here?
No, you're fine.
Good. Okay, so I called him up and said, I don't know what this recession thing is, but the money has slowed down, so if I'm late, I promise you. And he said, no problem. He worked with me. And I called up Lake City and said, rent both of them right now, rent them out. And teachers were there and took both of them and saved me that property. And if I hadn't have been able to save that, I think I would have never been in Colorado at all.
Really?
I think if I had lost that, I might have cried and never come up here. But so I had that all along, and then I decided to make a lifestyle change. I wanted my kids to grow up in Colorado, And so I moved up to I quit my other business, which was a secretarial service, and I filled a niche in my town where lawyers and judges would come to town and they needed a secretary to do forms for them at the courthouse and whatnot. I had an answering service, and I started working for lawyers and the judges, and I went and became a paralegal. Then I started working for oil and gas men, and I went out and secured leases. And so all along I was making really good money down there in Texas, but I grew up on the East Coast, and I didn't want my kids to grow up in Texas, so I made the move. When I worked for the oil and gas men, and we can talk about this, that recession came along, and all of those clients of mine that were in oil and gas all of a sudden needed bankruptcies lawyers. So my husband and I, we went and got certified, me as the paralegal and he as the attorney, to handle bankruptcies. And we had a line at the door for probably 3 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So at that time, survived that recession strictly on bankrupt, clients, and that's no way anybody wants to make money. After that, I'm like, I'm out of here.
I did it.
I'm out of here. So then I came up here to Colorado and took a summer off. I took a year off with the kids. We just played. And then I'm like, I'm going to have to figure out a way to make a living and take care of the kiddos. So I started looking again in Lake City for some kind of business. I didn't know what I would do, and I saw RV park for sale that I thought, oh, that might be fun. I like camping. I had it for maybe 9 years, but it was not my bag of tea, actually. I figured out that when you own the park, you never get to go camping again. So I ditched that pretty quick. Actually, no, my kids were riding the school bus. This is what got me to Gunnison, really. My kids were riding the school bus 55 miles one way. And so I didn't get to see them for like 3 hours a day. We got up at 5 a.m. for them to catch the bus. My oldest son, he's going into, he might have been a sophomore, and he said, Mom, can we buy a house in Gunnison? I'm like, I don't know, let's go look. So I came over here and I started looking around. I'm like, I don't see a whole lot that would work, but I finally found one, and by this time I could get a bank to make me a loan. I would say this, when I went to Lake City, I had a female banker for the first time, and that's when I started getting loans with my female bankers. Men, they always wanted your husband to sign. I don't know why, but my credit rating was higher than my husband's, even though he was the lawyer and I was the paralegal. But that's the way it was. I was in a man's world, and it really sucked. But when I got the women bankers here, I was really in good shape, and they believed in me. There's one sitting right here, right now. I had 3 female bankers when I came to Gunnison, and but when I came to Gunnison, I'm like, what would I do over here? Because I already have my 2 businesses over there, because after I started the RV park, I went into a Jeep rental business. And that was way more fun, bigger liability, but way more fun than the park itself, because it was bringing in $1,000 a day with 10 Jeeps, And I found out that I could, think about this, I had to have 10 Jeeps to start up the rental company, but I didn't have any money. So I went down and I
stole 10 Jeeps from New Mexico.
I probably put a lien on the campground or something, and I said, I want a 90-day note at the bank. So those Jeeps went over the Alpine Loop for 90 days, and on day 91, the first one was for sale. And when I sold the first one, I paid the interest for the whole summer. And then at the end, I had 9 Jeeps, and I would come over here and I'd put them for sale at High Mountain Liquor. And then I came over here and bought High Mountain Liquor before I sold the campground. I forgot to say that.
We'll get there eventually.
Oh, it's so confusing. Well, anyway, after the 90 days and the tourists went home and I had 9 Jeeps, I kind of kept one for myself, gave it to my daughter. She never drove it, but I did. And I put one for sale by owner in front of High Mountain Liquor, and I got a fleet price for buying 10 at once, so I only marked it up $500 over the fleet price. So the Jeep went, bam, out the door. I'm like, oh. So then I'm like, okay. And every year now I will have new Jeeps. You want a new Jeep when you go on the Alpine Loop. You don't want one of these wrecks. And so, for real. And you don't want to break down back there. Okay, then let's see. After the Jeep,
We'll pause for a second.
I bought,
if you would, only.
Okay, yeah, it just keeps going.
She's always been so nice to me. And now, after all this and the machinations that I'm seeing behind the scene, I'm terrified of her. In a really respectful, like, appreciative way. But carry on.
Okay, so after we were over here a couple of years in Gunnison and I had that seasonal business, I got bored. I'm like, well, I work really hard for 5 months, 7 days a week. Now I have nothing to do. I remodeled my house, and now I'm like, what am I going to do?
Kids were looking for you to do something?
Well, no, they were all in school, so I couldn't travel or anything. So I actually was just looking through the MLS book with one of my realtor friends, and I'm like, liquor store? I didn't drink. I didn't even know that liquor store was here, and I lived here for 2 years. And then I'm like, look at the gross income. So that got my attention, really. And then I'm like, well, I still don't have any money. But Ralph Black, I don't know if any of you knew him. You knew him. Okay, good. He owned it with his wife, June, and it was an established liquor store from the 70s. And I went into him and I said, I would like to look at your books. He said, I don't have any books. I said, well, 2 years tax returns. Oh, that's good enough. And I said, well, I might want to buy this. He goes, everybody wants to buy it. Even the bankers downtown want to buy it. But, I just listed it with a realtor like 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, oh, darn. We could have done this without a realtor. So he did have to pay that realtor fee. But I said, are you interested in owner finance? And that is my middle name, Terry Owner Finance Morrow. And now I do it for other people, but the only reason I ever got off the ground was because I would just go to people and say, will you owner finance me, Dick? I just need some help. I got a little bit of cash, or I got properties and I can lean all over them, which I did, and leverage them. But Ralph said, well, I need $75,000 down. I'm like, oh. Well, I had a little farm in Texas, and I owned it free and clear, and I had renters, and I all of a sudden said, oh, I'll just lean on that farm and get the $75,000, because now it was worth like 3 times that. And so I did that and got the 75, and Ralph said, okay, I'll owner finance you for 10%. I'm like, oh man. Well, in that first recession, my house payment was 13.5%. So if I can survive that recession with my house payment 13.5%, my business loans from IBM for the first word processor in the history of Texas, then I could and that IBM loan was 21%. It was like buying equipment on a credit card. So I thought, if I can survive that, I'm not afraid of anything in business now. I'm just like, meh. All right, so he said, yes, he'll finance me for 10%. And I'm like, all right, how does this business run? Can you stay with me for a couple of weeks and, teach me? Because I didn't drink, I had never done retail, and I'm like, how hard could it be? Well, you have to have the right people in there, and you have to learn about margins and all the rest of it. Buying the ads, the proper ads where you get your money's worth and all that. So he stayed with me I asked him to stay with me for a month. He stayed with me for 2 weeks, and he goes, you got this, kiddo. The only thing you don't have down is cursing. It will come. I never cursed until I owned a liquor store. And then I learned how to drink.
And then
And the rest is history.
professional drinker.
Yeah. So that's how I got to the liquor store.
Yeah, and so we were talking before
Yeah.
about Bookworm.
Bookworm.
Yeah. What's it like running retail on Main Street?
Well, that's my daughter's business, and I own the real estate.
Oh, okay.
So it's hard in retail, if anybody else is in retail here, you know, because of the online services. So competing with them today is really a challenge. When wine.com came out, I'm like, oh, what is that? No. And you can't ship wine online. It's temperature controlled. So that has kind of gone by the wayside as it is. But I was worried about it. But with my daughter's business, she's in the book business, and she had to go from being a bookstore to being a retail gift store, and she had to up the cards, and she has everything in there now just to try to keep people coming in the door. But it's getting tougher, and I don't really know. Small business, it's getting harder and harder for small business. I have 2 giant corporations trying to put me out now.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because what happened on January 1 of this year, Colorado changed its laws to allow larger supermarkets.
Full-strength beer.
Full-strength beer at what kind of places? So all supermarkets and
supermarkets and also the convenience stores.
convenience stores as well. Convenience stores, from somebody that's been to one, right? The shakes, yeah. I get the shakes. I can know. Yeah.
I don't know if the convenience stores here have beer, though. Do they?
I think so.
Have you looked?
Yeah. I've looked, but I don't.
Thomas shops there. Oh, yeah, he would know. I don't know. But
Yes, they do for sure.
Okay.
The gas stations, and they sell really early in the morning, which is hard for my business. I need sometimes, just, you know, no shame.
we
I'm
open
kidding.
at 8.
You open at 8.
Anthony.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Hey, sometimes, you know, tequila sunrises
summer.
aren't meant to be had at noon.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what happened there, because now some of our larger grocery stores can carry.
Now, Kroger, who owns City Market chains, they have lobbyists as well as Walmart who have been working for years to put beer, liquor, and wine in the grocery. A lot of states already have that. And Colorado, I don't know, our governor Hickenlooper, he said, no, if that just goes over in a day, full-strength beer, liquor, and wine to the grocery, we're going to have all these empty storefronts on every corner, especially in Denver. We'd have 5 here. We have 5 up the valley, so 10 in this county, 2 in little tiny Lake City. All of a sudden, especially in Denver, there would be all of this vacant real estate that could make this state real estate market crash commercially, because there's so many everywhere. And so he said, we can't let that happen. We'll let them have full strength beer in 2019, and then gradually, when I'm out of office, we'll let everything else go over to the grocery. Which means I have to evolve as a different kind of liquor store, and I'm more of a fine wine shop. I don't know if everybody's been in my store, but my market is a fine wine market. The margins on beer are terrible. I'm like, take City Market, you want Bud Miller and Coors? I would like you to have that. But I want to be a craft beer store and a fine wine shop, you know, and then we sell liquor as well. I'm going to have to evolve into a different type of liquor store, and I'm going to have to maybe have wine on tap so you could taste. There's a lot of options coming down the road, I think, for liquor stores that the grocery wouldn't have, maybe.
Yep.
Oh, now they said I can sell chips and peanuts. I'm like, yeah, thanks. But before, they wouldn't even let us do that. I could never own a second liquor license. Now they can have 15 chains with one license, you know. So they're really, the lobbyists have really hammered on Colorado long enough that they're just throwing in the towel. And this is just another small business. The liquor business is just like, if you remember, we had drugstore lawyers, And then the drugstore went into the big corporation, and now no more drugstores here. And I hate going and standing in line in the grocery store and then never getting served, but it's the way it is. And they want Kroger and Kroger Corp and Walmart have said, we're here to put all the small liquor stores out of business. And so I'm not here to try to talk you into going into the liquor business.
But if you want to, she will owner finance.
At a low 10%.
And I knew what the rate would be. You got to make that 10% back from all
and I've made loans to people, and I never have charged 10%.
No.
Yeah, no.
9.99.
No, not even 9.
Not even.
Yeah, so here's what I want to say about when I first bought a piece of real estate, and then I got my first big check for a sale of a property, and I'm like, oh, I could go buy a boat or another new car, whatever. I'm like, slap it in the bank. Forget you have it. That's what I did. I'm like, I'm gonna need that. I don't know what I'm gonna need it for, but I'm gonna need it for something. I'm gonna do another business down the road. So I slap it in the bank, and then maybe I have $100,000 in the bank, and Rosalind would make me a loan for $90,000 at 2% interest, because I'm borrowing my own money at that point. I'm self-banking. Some of the places call it share loans. But always remember, if you never heard of that, you don't ever have to pay 8% anymore, or 10, unless you want that owner finance chance to get in.
Yeah.
That really. But so I've been self-banking for a number of years and making loans for 2%. Now I'm able to make Anthony a loan for 10, and then I'm only paying 2, and he's paying me, 8.
Because I'm high risk.
High risk. And then, he has collateral because he has a second pair of jeans. I just saw those.
Listen, will you stick to the business part and let me do the funny?
Okay.
We're crossing lines here.
You might need a partner. You never know. Okay.
All right, so let's, on the note of being funny, how about, a holy F up, a holy folly.
You did.
A big one.
I want you to read my answer.
Well, I'm not just here to read notes.
No, but...
You want me to read this?
Where is that question?
I don't know.
Where is my F up?
Prepared.
In business?
Well, in life, I mean, you don't mention your other children because he's here.
You were talking about business.
Yeah, in business. I mean, if you want to share a personal story, we'll take it.
Ooh,
I've got a few.
We can't go there. We only have 30 minutes. Actually, in business, all of the businesses that I've started, here they are.
Yeah.
Okay. All of them have been successful, and I've sold some, and I am owner financing one now, and she's successful, and so I don't have a bad story in business where I took a risk, and that's it. You have to be a risk taker. You have to be able to jump off. When my banker came down and saw this building, not you, Kathleen, and they had already made me the loan on this building, and her senior banker walked in and went, "We made a loan on this?" And she's like, "Terry will make it great, don't worry." And he's like, "Oh my, we have to talk." I think she was in a little bit of trouble.
Really?
She made the loan. He came down, he's the president, and he looks at this place and goes, "Oh, what in the world?" And she had faith. Like my female bankers always had faith in me. I mean, I could just talk to the men bankers all day long, and they would never roll over and make me a loan. Now they will. Now I don't need one.
When you don't need them anymore. All right, so, I mean, there's, from the earlier part of your story, it was kind of like this leap of faith to buy the 40-acre parcel, which $185 is not that much money now, but back in, this is a while ago, you were 23, so 10 years ago.
Yeah. Zoom, zoom. He's not good at math. We're going to make a loan.
Can you edit out her jokes, please? This is really cramping in my territory. But that was a leap of faith, right? And I think a little bit I mean, I appreciate the fact that you took leaps of faith. And the RV piece had a leap of faith, right? Never run one. Fine. When you get into running businesses, right, you start understanding the concepts behind making any business successful. But I think what we hear, we don't hear from the businesses that we interview because they're still here by and large. Pro has had some fun stories for us about just, mistakes they made. But I think what we look for in some of these are, like, I wish the ICE Lab was here. I wish the Small Business Development Center was here because I could have made this big mistake that would have got me, that would have ended things. It would have bankrupted you. Yeah. And then you wouldn't have been doing any of this stuff. If you put yourself in a $200,000 hole, the banks are definitely not talking to you at that point. So it seems like you did that. I kind of want to know how you did it, because I'm going to take notes.
Oh, how I paid the bills?
Well, no, I mean,
I'll tell you. I worked hard. I started buying real estate when I bought the first little rental property. I rented it out for a fair price that would cover my taxes, my insurance, not even a refrigerator if the refrigerator went out, but the lawn had to be mowed or whatever. I did it myself. Yeah. I did it all.
Until the kids were old enough?
Tom, how many times have you mowed the grass? No.
How many kids do you have?
And the hardest job I ever had was 3 kids. Yeah. 3.
If I had to guess, Tom's probably not number 1.
No.
4 times you mow the lawn? No.
No, but so that meant I couldn't buy the nice basket of flowers. I had to go and buy the seeds and plant them and grow my own basket. And I pinched pennies. Yeah. And I had rental income right from the start. And so that's the only way I could make it. I couldn't hire anything done. I did it myself.
Well,
and I mean,
yeah. So there's
I didn't buy a piece of rental property that was falling down. It might just need paint. So I would look at that piece of real estate and go, oh, well, I know how to paint. I've roofed, I've fenced, I know how to do all that. I don't do any of it anymore. But that is, I mean, you have to make a decision that you're going to succeed no matter what. I'm going to work 7 days a week. If you have to hire somebody, maybe trade them out another service or a bottle of wine or whatever. I mean, it's hard today for people. I know it is. It's much harder than when I was a kid. Yeah. So that doesn't really help these kids.
So transition from, the sweat equity, right, was a big part of it, and being willing to do that, recognizing, being humble, right? But moving into an RV park after not ever owning an RV park, like, where do you build that acumen? Like, how do you become successful in that realm?
Well, I ran my own business before that. I had the secretarial service for 13 years. Okay. So I knew how to take care of my clients' needs. And so I thought it's probably going to be easier to take care of, I had already taken care of the lawyers and the judges, and these people have got to be a piece of cake. They're just on vacation.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I like the lawyers and the judges better in the end. But I already had that business background. I had already run a business for 13 years. And then I went into managing the law office. So I managed that too. If you can manage attorneys and judges, then everything else is a piece of cake.
Direct eye contact with Dick Bratton on that one.
But they're hard to manage. They procrastinate a lot. I found that. No, not you. No. They expect a lot of you. I remember that I had to do every pleading on a Selectric typewriter, and then one little sentence would be changed, and I have to go in there and do the whole sheet again. And then something called word processor came out with IBM. I'm like, what's that?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I have to have one. And I literally hawked my kids to get that because the first printer for that word processor was $8,500. And that was in 1983. And then the display writer system was $22,000. And every lawyer in town would come in and go, I want to see how that works. And I'm like,
I'll show you for $100.
I'll show you for 9%.
I'm also a sales rep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so then a couple more lawyers came over and just said, I want you to do my pleadings. Here's the file. So my business grew. Although that recession came, and when the same time I had the 21 and 22% business interest, the bank notifies me that my house is going up to 13 and a half. So now, when you people think 3.99 is some big deal for buying a house, I think it's free because of how I bought my houses, from 10 to 13%. So now I'm back to 2 though, if I want to spend any more money.
Yeah. How about questions from you guys?
Anybody got something they want to hear? Something you're curious about?
See, you scared them off.
I scared them off? We can do this.
Okay.
All right, fine. We'll start singing then.
Oh no.
No, we won't. What else is on your mind? What else do you want to share?
Let's see. I thought somebody would have some questions.
Well, they'll come around. I mean, I want to come back to the content of talking about lobbying.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay.
We'll come back to lobbying in just a minute.
Lobbyist.
Lobbyists.
Ugh.
Oh God.
Oh my gosh, I did that a minute ago.
Nothing to see here.
So Terry, I know you've been successful in many businesses, and I saw a glimpse of the list. What businesses do you currently own now?
Oh, I am dialed into 2 states now, and I have a little real estate company called The Mothership, and it's strictly rental properties, and they're VRBO, home away in Tucson. I just, in 2017, sold all of my Lake City property, and in 2015, I got rid of all my Texas properties, and I'm really thankful they're all gone right now.
Feeling good.
Especially
right
right
after
now.
that.
I just sold my home on Henson Creek in Lake City. If any of you know where that is, that's the big creek that they think is going to take out the town. And I owned it for 39 years, and I only sold it 7 months ago. So I'm really in shock about that whole situation down there, And my other business, Henson Creek, Jeep rentals and the RV park sit right on that creek.
Wow.
I mean, so... No, I sold that. No. So I have High Mountain Liquor, and I'm a partner with, Kristen owns the business, but I own the Bookworm, which if any of you are interested in, it will be going on the market in June. 10% interest, owner finance. Kristen's done that business for 11 years, and she has only one child she wants to spend more time with, so we're going to let that one go, and we're going to do something else. I don't know, Tom and Kristen may go in business together, but... So, yeah, this is owned by my oldest son, Ryan, and he started the brick cellar here in 2000.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, Squeaky Clean Auto Wash. Is
Right
that
next to it.
Is that everything?
Is it what? It's not everything. It's on your notes.
Oh.
Don't take my notes. This is where all my jokes are.
Oh, yeah, I sold the Matterhorn. I don't have that anymore.
What's the Matterhorn?
The Matterhorn is a motel in Lake City, the lodge. Since 1949, I had that for 10 years.
Oh,
In the middle of all this.
all this good stuff.
Yeah. But I did sell that. Yeah,
So,
I think that's everything.
It sounds like it sounds like with a lot of the recent stuff that you're trying to kind of back away from this.
This is me dialing it in and settling down. And this is me semi-retired.
Yeah.
Because I've been gone all winter.
Yeah.
And I like to go down there and enjoy my Tucson properties.
That's a good place to be.
I thought all of you were coming down, but does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah.
What happened
You know what?
to the 40 acres?
I'm glad you asked that, Dick, because I bought that 40 acres, which was a part of a large ranch that this man divided up. And the state of Colorado has been trying to buy it from me for 10 years maybe, and I just keep holding out. And here's the reason. They have bought every other parcel around me. There's 2 parcels left, 40 acres above me, a lady from New York owns, and then I own the 40 acres. You know why they pinned it off? Because of the elk herd there. So now it's all fenced, it's a state land trust, but I have private property in the middle of the state land trust that is full of giant elk. And so I can drive my car on there, but you can't. But one smart man that is down there in the valley, he and his brother were natives down there from back when the sheep herders moved into Conejos County, and those brothers retained 2.5 acres of that state property, their property, just so they can go in there and still deer hunt and elk hunt. But I don't know. I'm not ready. I think I want it to go into the preserve, but the state has to come up with a little more money, at least match what's on the tax, appraisal. You want some hunting property?
No, I don't really hunt. I'm a really bad fisherman. I don't need any more self-esteem crushing activities in my life.
Dick knows where this is. I am by the Lohara Reservoir, 5 miles from that reservoir. Yeah, the Lohara Highlands Ranch. Beautiful. Yeah.
That's lovely.
I kind of don't want to let go of that because it's like that's my little kid piece when I first started out.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of silly.
Sounds like you probably don't have to for financial reasons, if I had to guess. So let's go back to the lobbying piece, because I'm curious about the influence that the lobbyists are having at the state level. Is there a lobby group for small liquor stores?
No, not one as big as it should be to fight it, but it's kind of too late. I don't know. They expect in the next 2 years that 300 liquor stores in Colorado will go down that are beer stores. They sell mostly beer, not hardly any wine, and occasional hard liquor. But there isn't a... But I will say this, in Arizona where I am, alcohol is already in every grocery store, but on a very limited basis. Like if they have Cuervo, they have maybe 2 sizes. We have like, how many? 8 sizes of Cuervo, for instance, and Salsa. I mean, we have everything from the minis all the way up. The grocery store in Tucson, they only have 1 size or 2 sizes or none at all. So, and they carry it all. And at the same time, there's little Plaza Liquors on Campbell Avenue stacked to the ceiling with fine wine, and they have tastings daily, and it's packed all the time. And they also, they have only craft beer and very little liquor as well. And they're surviving just fine right next to a big Albertsons. So here's the deal. I think there's something to be said about the convenience of my store, a small store, versus going and trying to find a parking place at City Market, then waiting at the line. You can't go through the free scanner because you have to be carded. And anyway, you miss out on the whole social activity that goes on in every liquor store, I think, not just mine.
By socializing, do you mean heckling? Because that's what I get when I go in.
No, I mean, that's one of the things that I like about living in a small town. I said, you know what, I can do some business at the post office or at the grocery store, and I like that, Well, people meet up in my store all the time, and then they're going, hey, you know what, we should da-da-da-da, blah, blah, let's plan a party, whatever. It just goes on, and in the grocery, you're never going to have that. But also, here's the number one thing I'm most concerned about. When I make money at High Mountain Liquor and am able to give it back to every nonprofit, and there's 200 something in this valley, they all come to my store. And over the years, we pick a different one every year to give a bigger check to. I think that if people don't support the small liquor stores, that the first thing that's going to go away is the donations to the nonprofits. And I think the nonprofits in the state can really, really be hurt overall. You're going to cut back on your advertising maybe. You're going to definitely cut back, if not stop, donations.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that all 5 liquor stores here combined, what we give annually is compared to what City Market or Walmart gives annually to this community. I don't think there's any comparison. I mean, I like 6 Points, and year before last we were able to give them $10,000 at the end of the year.
Wow.
Those donations could probably go away if people don't support small business. And it's not just liquor, it's all, the bookworm it just ekes by because she has such competition with online services. She can't afford to do donations like the liquor store, but what do we do about that?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's, your story about the Tucson business, at least there's some hope there. That there's an Albertsons, and if you want a 24-pack of Bud Light, you're probably getting it cheaper at Albertsons.
And they don't have a drive-through for moms and movie stars. Moms and movie stars.
Because we see limos going through this town all day.
We've had movie stars.
They
don't like
Your next business, the limousine.
Kenny
No,
was doing
I'm thinking about the shipping business when I see how much people are buying online and the cardboard boxes and crap that's going in our landfill from shipping. And when I see Kristen gets a box of books and they're still destroyed, but we got to deal with all of that paper and that plastic popcorn and then the boxes. I mean, what about that?
Ibar Ranch has turned the disposal of pallets into a nice business opportunity.
Well, they burn them, don't they? Yeah.
As I call it, a white man fire.
Yeah,
Heavy on the diesel and pallets.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions from you guys? Go ahead, Dick.
He wants to buy the 40 acres. I know.
There you are. He's still working.
I have enough acres.
Yeah, you do.
I want to make a comment followed by a question. You have this aw shucks, kind of like you fell into. You have this aw shucks, like I fell into everything. I know you're very smart. Give me a little bit of a background about why you went into these businesses. You didn't just walk in and buy them.
No.
So
I
let me
didn't
repeat the
fall
question.
into any of them. I'm always looking for a business opportunity, and still I am, and I have to pull. I am trying not to, but I recently saw one, and I'm like, oh, if I had someone I could put in there, and I've stretched all of my employees so thin, I would buy that business, and because it was such a good deal. And then I'm like, oh, I need to stop that. I really do. I want more poolside time.
Have you done research or investigate before you buy all these businesses? I can't believe that you didn't do some.
Have I done any research? Well, I camped before I bought the RV park.
Oh, she did research, Terry. I remember when you came into the bank and said, Rosalind, I have all these customers coming through the liquor store asking me.
That's a good
where
one. Thank you.
Where is?
That's
where
right.
is?
I
And she
forgot
said-
about that.
And she said, so do you know where it is? What are they asking
So can you
for?"
guess what that is?
The car wash.
So tourists would always come into the liquor store and go, this is exactly what they would say. Where in this town is there a car wash? Where is this in this town is there a car wash? We would hear it all the time in the summer, and I'm like, oh, well, there was that vacant lot next door to me, but it was owned by Bank of the West. And I'm like, oh. So I went over there to Bank of the West because that's where the High Mountain Liquor account was, and I said, will that ever be for sale? And he said, I don't. In fact, we're going to build a drive-through bank. And I go, oh. He goes, but only on half. And I go, okay, so take the south half and let me have the north half. And he goes, what for? And I go, for a while, well, I'm going to do something. I don't know what. I knew nothing about car wash, but I went to Denver to a car wash company and I sat down with two of them and got them in a bidding war against each other, and we built a car wash. When I got one of them out, I finally ended up, and I'm like, whoa, this is really scary. That was really scary.
Why?
And that was a upfront $500,000 investment, but nice bankers, lady bankers made me a loan. And by that time I had another little piece of property in Lake City I could lean on. And so we just went right in with that car wash, and that was a huge, yeah, good for you, Rosalind.
So what are they asking you now?
Oh, what are they asking me now?
I wouldn't share that publicly. Sell that to someone. That's IP.
Yeah. Now I think about helping out young people as an entrepreneur, if they want to be an entrepreneur, and I have done some of that in the past without talking about it, but helping people and also making loans.
How young?
Well, you know, here's the deal. I love, and I will say this, if the university wasn't here, I would not be here. I want to be in a progressive town like Tucson and Gunnison that maintains a university, because I like working with the young people. I always want to hire them. I love it when they come up with these entrepreneurial questions like, how did you get this store? And you built a car wash? I get that all the time from these young minds, and I love that. And so I have set 2 of my employees up in the past in a business for themselves and finance them.
And we know the rate. Cool.
No, and it wasn't 10%. Yeah,
That's reserved for people like me.
Yeah.
Any further questions from you guys? Okay. Well, we'll wrap up. Thank you very much. We give her a big round of applause,
Thank
please.
you.